I'm very glad that Dr. Thongolal Haukep, Assistant Professor, Center for Study of Law and Governance from JNU, joins us. I am also joined by Group Captain B. Nandakumar Sharma. He's spokesperson of the Delhi Maiti Coordinating Committee. And I am also joined by Suhas Chakma, Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group. Dr. Chakma, my first question is to you. Do you think that they played the role of peacekeepers, or did they play the role of agent provocators? Or there was a metamorphosis in the role they played in last 120 days in Manipur? Suhasji.
I think we have to understand Meira Paibis in the sense that it's not a structured organization like any organization which are community based, which you see in India. And in a way, you could say that there are a number of organizations which are based on communities, but they do not have the structured leadership to provide directions. It's just people come across together and they form their particular movement. So if the movement was against the British, was against the government of India, was against the imposition of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, it was very clear what role they were playing. But when this came to this particular ethnic violence, of course, then the opponents of the Meira Paibis, we are not a particular, institution of the government or state. In this particular case, of course, the opponents, we are the people belonging to the other communities, in this case, the Kuki community. So they ended up playing the role which is, as Brajesh had said, it's desirable. And I would say that this is not an organization which has firm belief in certain, written principles in that sense. So whatever the adversary comes up, whenever those actions of the adversaries are against a particular communities, of course, these groups come up. So their role as as women's organization is not different from any other community-based organizations in riotous situation. If there were any kind of structured organizations, if they knew what role to play, I think they could have played much more positive role to bring down the violence. And as I have been saying, in this conflict in Manipur, what we usually see all over the world is that women and children are disproportionately victimized, and this state or this conflict is not an exception. But what we have seen in Manipur, and which makes it different even from all other conflicts in Northeast India, is that because certain communities or certain organizations we are in existence belonging to the women, and they play certain roles, and women in this conflict, they also play the role of perpetrators. So they are not only the victims, in many situations they were also the perpetrators. And this case is different from the conflicts which we had seen in Assam. If you look at Assam, I had followed the violence in Assam from 1993 till 2014. And almost each and every conflict which was initiated in Bodoland, I had seen the communal attacks on the Muslims, communal attacks on the Adivasis, trying to create a Bodo-dominated territory. I have seen all the conflicts. I have visited, in fact, all the conflict situations in Assam, and I had not seen this kind of involvement of women organizations in what you could call, provocating the conflicts. And that's my initial assessment, that
Okay.
this organization is not different from other organizations, those which are community based. And when the adversaries become other communities, they end up being as communal as anybody else.
Okay. Mr. Haukip, your opening comments, then I'll come to Nandakumarji.
Yes, I think this evening we are discussing women not as a general, but about a kind of group of women who are activists, right? Who are called Meira Paibis in Manipur. So Meira Paibis, they have a long history of of a group struggling against the colonial rule, for the rights of people, for the rights of women as a whole. And in post-independence period, we have seen them, fighting against human rights abuses. They have been a campaigner for human rights and for the rights of people as a whole in Manipur. And they were also forcing the colonial as well as post-colonial government for reforms. That's the kind of reputation they have built for the last so many years. But in the conflict in Manipur, which continues till today, their role has to certainly change. And maybe it's because of the circumstances, the kind of circumstances they have within the society. They are compelled to, take sides. They are compelled to, rescue their own men who are, a part of the community. So, from agents of peace, I think they have slowly become, a vigilante group during this conflict. That's what everybody can see because the army and others, there are many video evidences where the women groups, even during the initial days of the violence,
Mr.
allowed women.
Mr. Hauke, there's a little bit of disturbance at your end. I'll go to Nandkumarji. We'll fix that problem. Nandkumarji, your opening thoughts.
Thank you, Kartikan, for calling me in your show. Thanks
Pleasure.
a lot. Firstly, let me go back to the history of Meira Paibis. Meira Paibis, basically, in Manipur, has brought up the society of the Manipur. You would be knowing, but many of the viewers may not be knowing. From 1819 to 1826, the Manipur, that time it was a kingdom, it was occupied by Burmese. And atrocities done at that time was too bad, and no men were able to live in Manipur. So they ran away here and there in other parts outside of Manipur. So those times, the Meira Paibis or mother ladies, they stayed back, and the king, the prince, Mr. Hiraj, at that time Hirajan, he was living in anonymity, and he was contacting with these ladies in the market, and with the help of the lady folks, they could conquer and drive out the Burmese back. That was the role of the Meira Paibis in the history of Manipur. So it is one of the most respectable place in the Manipur society. That's how Meira Paibis started in 1819. And again, as I mentioned earlier also in your program, in 1904, the British forced labor the Manipuri males without paying any wages. So the Meira Paibis stood up against the British, and the males were saved again. Again, in 1939, once again, the artificial famine was created by the British Raj, and the Meira Paibis fought, and there was a lot of problems during those times also, but Meira Paibis somehow came and saved the society. So it is a backbone of our society in Manipur. Had not the women folk not involved themselves to save the society, the Manipur would not have been like the way you are seeing today. It would have been a place without a mighty. However, I would like to say the visuals you are playing, this is one instant, which is probably on 13th of the June, which is displayed on the screen. So this is the only one incident you have been showing in your channel every time Meira Paibis talk about. This is an incident, maybe one odd incident, where Meira Paibis were protesting and not allowing army to enter into a certain area of operation because they were anguished. Let me tell you, on 26th of May, the actual incident happened on 3rd May from Suhas. Then it continued for some time. Then suddenly there was a certain gap. Then on 16th, on 26th May, in Sarawak and Sugnu district, Sugnu places, there were about 38 villages. They have been given protection from security forces, including Assam Rifles. Out of these 38 villages, 13 villages at Sarawak were totally burned down. Approximately 800 houses were burned down.
Nandkumarji, you're saying that they were given protection from Assam Rifles?
Yes, including Assam Rifle. Yes, 38 villages were protected by, including Assam Rifles and the other security forces. So, out of these 35 villages, and unfortunately, 13 villages were burned down by the other community. And this was happened in front of the Assam Rifles or other security forces. So that led the people of the Manipur lack of trust, especially in the Assam Rifle and the security forces. You would have seen, if you check the records, right from 3rd May to 25th or 26th May, there is no protest by the Meira Paibis or no such blockers. You would have seen it. So the people felt a sense of, say, betrayal or sense of that in spite of having so much security, why these 13 villages were burned down.